I was lucky to speak with Mexican actress and producer Claudia Jasso. Miss Jasso has acted in such films as El Lado Oscuro de la Noche, The Dark Side of the Night, among other films. She was an associate producer at Hilo Negro Films and is currently the management and development coordinator for the Mexican Cultural Institute of New York. Had you seen this film before I had mentioned I had brought it up to you and Miguel?
Yes, actually, Miguel told me about this project, your project, and it for me was very interesting. Uh, Actually, because I saw this movie in Italian, the first one that I guess, and from Spain and Mexico. And I think the three versions are amazing movies.
I watched it with English subtitles because I wanted to be able to obviously understand all of the Spanish, because my Spanish is pretty good. It's not excellent. Yeah, sometimes I know with certain films, there are little mistakes or little errors that get made, and things that they're like, no, that's not really what he was trying to say. They got the English kind of bad on that. Did you watch it with the subtitles or just on its own?
Yeah, with subtitles in
Did
English.
you see anything that was kind of like, no, that's really not what he meant, or they didn't really get that when
No, I think the translations in subtitles were correct. You can understand all contents. And I saw in another movies, for example, that they missing something important because sometimes the Mexican movies have slangs.
Yeah.
So the translation is completely different.
Right.
But in this movie, I understand everything, and I think the translation is really good.
That's true. Actually, that's something that's a good point. The Spanish being used here didn't really feel like it would be out of place in another South American country. It doesn't feel like it has that much slang involved.
Yeah.
At least from what I could tell, even when I wasn't looking at the subtitles, most of the wording was not unfamiliar to me. Besides like the word, what was the word? Lagartona, I think was that thing?
Lagartona.
Lagartona.
Yes.
Yeah, but most of it was stuff that phrases I was pretty familiar with.
Yeah, it's very, even in the, for Latin America cities or countries, sorry, is very, very different. I mean, Colombia has a different words than definitely Mexico, or the same word means different things.
Yeah.
In Spain, of course, too.
But see, I wonder whether, could this film be easily, but that means in a way that this film is pretty easily accessible to someone from Colombia or someone from
exactly
or Central America. It's not like it's
their accent is really good.
Yeah, it's not so localized that it's difficult to understand.
Exactly.
Yeah. So would you say that Perfectos Desconocidos, as far as I saw it, is kind of a mix of a dark comedy and a drama? Is that kind of a popular genre in Mexican cinema today? Is that something popular among people going to the movies in Mexico, or is that not so popular these days when it comes to sales and moviegoers in Mexico?
The dark comedy has become very popular in the films and series in Mexico. This genre of movies have a big social impact among young people in Mexican cinemas, and because usually this kind of comedy is very fun and is closer to the real life. So for the young people or old people is very common or very popular in these days.
Would this be considered a portrait of the wealthy?
Yeah, definitely is considered an upper middle class story. You can see the characters are professional people and they have an important jobs. Like Antonio is a surgeon and his wife is a psychologist. And they have a beautiful apartment with a beautiful furnitures and expensive furnitures. And actually they have a doorman, and the doorman is not really common in Mexico. This is for a wealthy Mexican standard. And I watched to the movie that Mario and Ana discuss about the expensive wine, and also Eva and Antonio talk about her breast plastic surgery, about with the best foreign doctor. So there are different distinct signs that for me is upper middle class. I mean, I don't think so it's only middle class because they have another luxury things, but definitely not rich. I mean, upper middle class, I think, is this genre.
There is a sex scene early on in the film, though the characters are closed. I think it's Mario and Ana. Ana announces that she's no longer going to be taking birth control pills, and Mario expresses enthusiasm for that, and apparently he's fine with it. And then they have sex. Nothing is again, the characters are clothed, but I'm wondering, is that also something that's fairly common to see in Mexican cinema today, or is that considered pretty racy and extreme by
No, I don't think so. Is considered racy. I think it's very common to see the sex scenes on the screen. I mean, even with cloth, I mean, it's nothing. It's pretty normal when you see any reactions with your body with cloth. Is very normal, and without cloth too. I think the cinema standard about the sex is gonna be changed. Is more openly now.
Historically, as far as common conceptions about Mexico go, people think of Mexico as, at least in historical terms, being a mostly Catholic country with a relatively low divorce rate. Did you think it's unusual to see divorce being discussed so openly and so lightly by Mexican characters as it is in this film? Because they do talk about it. We're like, oh, well, all we have to do is sign a check and it's done if you don't have kids. Whereas if you have kids, you have to worry about, placing the kids with the family members. But it's not considered, but there is no taboo about discussing the subject. Has that become something, is that unusual in Mexican cinema these days, or to be that open about it?
No, I think actually is very common because discuss openly about the divorce, and this time it's true that Mexico is Catholic and very conservative country, but the rate of the divorce is increased over the years. I mean, there are more common to talk about the divorce in these times in the movies or films or series. It's very common. It's not unusual.
Interesting. How common is it these days to be seeing portrayals of openly gay characters? Well, I mean, he's only openly gay because he's kind of forced to be. But to see openly gay characters like Pepe in Mexican cinema today?
It's very common. The recently years, the Mexican cinema is going to be openly with the homosexual characters. You can see more gay portraits in the Mexican films and series. Actually, the gay roles in the movies got more viewers in these years. It's very popular.
Which years are we speaking of? Like in the last 10 years, last 20 years?
I think not too much. I think the last 5 years. Yes, because it actually is a new genre for the cinema, but it's these kind of series or movies have a lot of audience.
Antonio, the surgeon, the plastic surgeon, is really accepting in the film from almost from the start of his 16-year-old daughter's possibly having sex with her boyfriend, as long as she uses protection. And I'm wondering, is that kind of attitude of acceptance towards teen sex something kind of newer to be seeing in Mexican cinema and Mexican dramas? Because there's definitely, I was surprised at like how accepting he was, especially compared to Eva's reaction, which was much more angry and much more like, how can you be doing this? You've been lying to me. Whereas Antonio is like, she's 16, she's going to do this as long as she takes care of herself. We shouldn't expect more. Is that becoming more common, or is that kind of unusual?
No, I think there is something new in the Mexican cinema. For me, it was a surprise as well, because in the real life, it doesn't happen that. I mean, it's a little difficult that the father talk with his daughter, give a condoms and talk about open sexuality.
Right.
It's very difficult. It's more common for the mothers talk with the daughters, but no with the father. I was surprised too. And even in the real life in Mexico, it's never happened. I mean, there are a taboo talk with your father, definitely. In these times, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So I was surprised. Maybe it's a new thing, but I like that the parents watch this movie, because there are a lot of tips or advice for the parents. We need to talk with his daughter.
Yeah, no, I mean the speech that he gives on the phone to her about how she should think about it and how she should be careful. It's beautifully written. It's really beautifully done. And it's just one of the things where I'm like, okay, but would that really happen commonly both in like, a common upper class Mexican family and in Mexican cinema? Is this something you've seen before? It's kind of interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe with some upper middle class families is more common, it's true. But or new families, como young fathers. I saw that with young fathers in Mexico, but not with my father. So with old fathers is definitely very, very weird.
Older generations, changes in generations.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, Claudia, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this, to get, a perspective on this from someone who's experienced in working in the Mexican film industry as an actress and a producer. And I wish you the best with all your projects. And I thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity and talk with you. It was nice, and have a great day.